Hey, small group leaders! Man, I am so excited for this week because we are starting a brand new series called Before I Go. And what we're doing is we're going to kind of tie this series in tandem with what we're talking about on Sunday mornings, where we're going to be diving into the last few weeks, the last few moments of Jesus' life before he was crucified. And we're going to start this week off. I'm sending the same video to both high school and middle school because we're going to do everything all together for this week. This week we are getting into Jesus's final supper, the Passover celebration, where he changes all of Passover and turns it into what we would call the Lord's Supper, the Eucharist, or communion. And we're going to be taking a really big kind of analytical view of what is Jesus doing with Passover. And to do that, we have to understand Passover to a certain extent. And then we're going to see how Jesus is changing that thing and turning it into communion. And so I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a little bit more nerdy. Why we are combining everybody is because, so the biggest reason why we separate middle school and high school is because we want to be able to preach and speak to the lives of what is happening in the life of a middle schooler and a high schooler. Middle schoolers think differently. Their cognitive development is at a different stage than a high schooler. They're going through different life experiences. And so when we need to emphasize those two differences. But when we talk just, this is going to be a night where it's basically straight up just theology. That hits both groups similarly, especially with communion, because all of our middle schoolers are still concrete thinkers. They haven't developed the ability to have abstract thought, or they're just working on that. And communion is something really concrete. You take communion. It's a thing that you do. And so that's why we're combining this week. So we are going to do our pretty normal layout of the night. We'll do some sort of game. I've got one that I haven't really looked at yet, but I think it'll be really fun. We're going to do a game, and then we're going to do worship and a message and break into small groups. Now, because we're talking about communion, we're actually even going to practice it. So you are going to be leading that in your small groups. And what we're going to have is we're going to have one large glass of grape juice. We won't do wine. And we're going to have a loaf of bread. We'll also have some small cups for every small group leader, and we will have some of the prepackaged communion cups in case anybody feels uncomfortable sharing the same elements as other people in your group, if they want to be a little bit more germ conscious, then that's for them. Now, there's a few different ways that you can lead this, but honestly, genuinely, I would encourage you to lead it in the way that you feel most comfortable with. Maybe for you, it's going to be leading your group in a time of prayer and then breaking bread and just passing that around to everybody. Maybe it's going to be something to where you just put the elements out and you say, hey, pour a little bit of juice out of this cup into a smaller cup. Maybe you want to actually pass the cup around if people are comfortable with that and share from the same cup, a little bit more Lutheran, Presbyterian style. Whatever you prefer, I want you to feel empowered to do that. Now, if you don't have a preference, or if you've never led something like this before, how I would do it in this situation is I would read through this same passage that we're going to be talking about in Luke. The passage, let me get it pulled up exactly, is Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 7, but you can even skip ahead. Sorry, excuse my voice. You can even skip ahead and start in like 22, verse 17. I would personally read through that, and I would pray over each element, break it, like if starting with the bread, because that's what Jesus does first. I would break the bread, pass it out to my group, pray over it again, and then I would say, because I grew up as a Baptist, and maybe this is a Baptist thing, maybe it was just my pastor's thing, I would say, do this in remembrance of me, and tell everybody in my room to take the bread with me. And then I do the same with the cup. I pray over it first, thank God for it, and then pour it out into glasses or whatever, if you're going to pass it around. And then once again, I would say I would read that passage and say, Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. And then I would say, let's all take it together and take it together. That's how I would do it. If you want to follow that suit, great. If you have a different way of doing it, great. Afterwards, the biggest thing that I would encourage you to is just start hosting a conversation. I'll write up some questions for us all to ask, but feel free to totally abandon that. Tonight, like this Sunday night, is going to be all about just getting into like, why do we do communion? How do you feel during it? This is going to be a night where students are going to ask you a lot of questions. Should I be praying during this? Should I be trying to listen to God during this? And I'm really, really excited for the opportunity. Like, this is such a great opportunity. They're going to probably be asking you a lot of questions. And I think that will lead somewhere really, really good. I totally believe that will lead somewhere really good. I don't think it. I firmly believe it. So that's our purpose for this coming Sunday night. I'm really, really excited about it. Next Sunday night, so that you know where the series is going, the following Sunday night, we're going to talk about when Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane. We're going to have middle school and high school split up for that one, and we're going to actually be doing something with a dummy phone number that I got where kids can text in prayers. And basically our idea is going to be like, you can talk to God and be raw and honest and real. Jesus didn't hide any of his emotions from the Father during that prayer. And then on the final week, this is going to be the week of Palm Sunday, we're going to once again have everybody together, and we're actually going to watch the Passion of the Christ, and we're going to watch the Passion scene when Jesus is actually getting crucified. And that one we're going to notify all of our parents about beforehand because it's pretty graphic, and we're going to let all of the students know, like, hey, you don't have to watch, you can just be in the room and be looking away, doing whatever. And then we're going to do some reading of scripture and kind of have a much more informal feel of asking the question, why did Jesus have to die? And, well, why did Jesus have to be crucified? And so that's going to be kind of our third series, and then we're going to take a couple weeks off for Easter and spring break, and then we'll be back at it. So that's everything that's coming up. I would really love if you would join me in praying over this series. I think that this series, partnering with what we're doing on Sunday mornings, I think that this series in this Lenten season is so important, and that this can be just a moment where all of our students really refocus their hearts on Jesus in a really cool and intentional way. So if you would join me in praying for that, I would really appreciate that. And then the biggest thing is, guys, I just want to tell you how much I love getting to serve with you. It's so cool hearing all of the stories from our students about how much of a difference you are making in their lives. I get to hear it all the time about just how great somebody's small group leader is, and how much they know that, oh yeah, my small group leader loves me. Like, my small group leader cares about me. It's so good. What you are doing is so important and so key and transformational. So guys, thank you for what you do. I love getting to serve with you, and I cannot wait to serve with you this week.